there, and welcome to another edition of Tour Confidential. I'm Ryan Aselta, and I'm excited to be joined this week by former SI and ESPN golf writer Pharrell Evans. And joining us from the West Coast via Skype, Golf.com's Josh Sens. And guys, the PGA Tour coming off their team event down in New Orleans, back to stroke play event this week down at Quail Hollow and the Wells Fargo. And guys, they returned back to Quail Hollow just about 9 months after the PGA Championship. Big field, big names in this field this week, Pharrell. Tiger was coming back a week prior to the Players' Championship. Phil Mickelson, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy. When you look at this field and those players in particular, who has the most to prove heading into this next stage of the season where we got the Players and, of course, the U.S. Open coming up?
I think it's Rory McIlroy. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we were talking about Rory having a chance to maybe get 14, 15 majors and be the real heir apparent to Tiger. But now he's there. We know he's the most talented player out there, pound for pound, the longest player in the world. But he's sort of hanging out. He's not really living up to, I mean, he's kind of had this professionalization. He's got the charities and the family. All those things are great, but I'm not sure Rory's where he wants to be. And I think this season is one of those reckonings for him.
What do you think, Josh? Big names. I don't know if any of them actually have something to prove, but they could show us something this week at the Wells Fargo, heading in the second major coming up, the fifth major coming up, of course, at the Players. Who do you think's got a lot on the line this week?
You know, Pharrell took the words out of my mouth there. I really do think it's Rory. You know, if you think back last time we saw him heading into the final round of the Masters, he was talking some pretty bold words, and it was mano a mano with Patrick Reed in that final group, and he just sort of went out with a whimper, and that had to have stung. And now he's heading back to Quail, where he's won twice. I think this is the place where I agree with you. I don't think he's thinking he has anything to prove to the world, but if he really wants to test himself and kind of get back to where he thinks he should be, this is as good a place as any.
What about Tiger, guys? Josh, back in the field. Kind of surprised. He wasn't scheduled originally to play in the Wells Fargo after taking some time off after the Masters. He adds it to the schedule. Clearly, he's been prepping down in Florida, getting ramped up for these next couple big events. What do we expect from Tiger this week?
I mean, the comeback has been such an incredible story, so far beyond anything that most of us expected. But now that he's back, we're back to the old sort of incredibly lofty expectations for Tiger. At first, we thought he wouldn't get off the couch, and now that he's back playing, we want to see him win. And the expectations are very high for him. I think they're outsized at this point. Still, I still don't think the tee to green game is there to win at a big brawny course like Quail Hollow, especially not against a stacked field like this one.
What do you think, Pharrell? Coming off a few weeks, kind of an important week to see what he's adjusted, what improvements he's made coming out of the Masters, where I guess it was could say it was a disappointment down at Augusta National. Do you think he's made the corrections and can contend quickly this week at Quail Hollow?
I agree that he may have made the corrections, but I think this is a preparation for next week. I mean, you can't come off a couple weeks. You hadn't played a lot of golf in the last few years, and all of a sudden he's going to come out and play 4 rounds. He's going to compete. He's going to beat the best players in the world. He's going to be able to drive the ball. He's going to be able to hit the ball closer. His proximity to the hole hasn't been great this season. He's got to make some putts. So Tiger's going to tell us tomorrow, in the next couple of days, I'm almost there. And I think he is almost there, but he's got to play more golf. So he's preparing this week for next week. I think he'll play better next week.
This is an event he won back in '07, but hasn't played there since 2012, though it's a tough course, so that may bode well, as we saw him fare pretty well at some of the tougher tracks like the Valspar, where he contended on Sunday. All right, on the LPGA Tour, Lydia Ko wins the Mediheal Championship in a playoff with an eagle, and it's a name we haven't seen at the top of a leaderboard for quite some time. Her first win since 2016. And Josh, this snaps a 43-event drought for the world's former #1 player. When you see Lydia, that game that we used to see quite consistently, she had won 14 times before this past week. Do you think Ko can reemerge and get back to being the top player in the world?
Certainly she can. It's not an easy route, and being the dominant player is hard enough to get there once. To get back there after you've dropped off is incredibly tough. But Ko has always kind of worn all those expectations and the challenges lightly. She's always had a smile on her face, And this past year, she changed coaches, she changed caddies, she's blew up everything and is sort of starting from scratch. So yeah, I think she can come back. And a lot of it is just going to be about sort of regaining the confidence that she had when she was playing her best. And this was a great sign. And who doesn't want to see her back permanently back in the winning circle? It's so much fun to watch her play.
Pharrell, do you think this is a matter of not can she return to number one, but does she want to? The drive. I mean, we forget, Lydia Ko is only 21 years old. Someone winning on the tour at 21, usually we're celebrating, talking about, wow, this is a sign of big things to come. But knowing where she's been, the changes she's gone through, Josh mentioned the caddy change, the coach change, the equipment change. Do you think the drive is there to get back to number one?
I think the drive is there, but she's got to take ownership of her game and her career. David Ledbetter alluded to something, a fired coach. Now she's working with Ted O. I think she takes ownership of her game, of her equipment, of her caddy situation, and she says, this is about Lydia Ko, this isn't about my parents, my dad, Ledbetter, Ted O. It's about what I can do when I'm in between those ropes. And I think when she does that, I think we're going to see a player who could be great.
She's kind of a unique a golfer, 21-year-old who has consistently said she plans on retiring at age 30 and going on to the next phase of her life. That makes me question whether the drive to get back to number one after already experiencing and running off 14 wins at such a young age, I'm not sure it's there. One thing I am sure about, the talent is there, and she showed that on Sunday. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Tour Confidential. Josh, thanks for being with us, getting up early on the West Coast. And Pharrell, thanks as usual for joining us in studio. I'm Ryan Aselta. We'll see you next week right here on Golf.com.